Alright students, here is your guide for the final portfolio. This is everything you need to know to do a great job with your portfolio, so make sure you follow this closely. So, first things that I have here in bold, of course, are the important instructions that you need to consider. So number one, be sure to highlight and annotate everything. I'm sure you'll get tired of hearing that. But that's why I say it over and over, because it's so important. Highlight and annotate everything that you fix on the report and the editorial. Those are the only two things you really need to have a bunch of highlights and edits on. The exercises and the annotated bibliography and all those, they should be fixed and they should be at their best. And they should all look the same and everything, have the same formatting according to the exercise formats, right? And the annotated bib should be according to the sample. So everything should be fixed, but you don't have to actually highlight or annotate any of those things. All you have to do is just copy and paste them into the document that will be your primary or main portfolio. Okay. The report and the editorial, those will be separate attachments. So you'll be basically attaching three different things into your final portfolio assignment. Okay. So you got to highlight and annotate everything that you fix, and the highlights and annotates have to go all the way through the paper. If I only see highlights on the first couple pages, and then all of a sudden there's like hardly any highlights at all, then that's going to make me wonder if you really did revise and edit the whole thing. So you got to make sure you highlight and annotate every instance of an error. If I mark the error in the beginning of the paper, then you should be going through and looking at the whole paper and see if you have any more of that same kind of error, and then fixing them and annotating them and highlighting them. All right. Next thing here is that for the the two major projects, the report, well, for the report specifically here, it says your works cited / reference. I think most of you decided to do yours in MLA, so I'm assuming most of yours will be have a MLA works cited page. But if you chose to do your paper, your report in APA, then you probably already received feedback from me saying that, reminding you that it would have to be entirely. In other words, the formatting and everything has to be properly done according to APA if you're doing that. And then your references page will be titled references, right? But most of you, it seemed like most of you were including a heading that you had to have according to my instructions for MLA, which is your name, my name, class information, due date. But you don't put those on an APA paper. With an APA paper, you have a actual title page where the whole page is just like the title and some information about me and you and stuff. So you got to make sure you use the proper information in the Easy Writer if you need to refer back for that. Or you can just simply go to Purdue OWL or Google how to do a reference page or how to do a APA paper, and it'll show you all that stuff. So must have at least 5 sources on the works cited page or reference page. So at least 5 sources. Now those 5 sources do not include your chart / graph, whatever you created. That chart or graphic should have its full citation right underneath it. Actually, right there in the report, it should be cited. It should have the full citation right underneath the picture, the image or chart. The editorial should also, of course, have 1 or 2 sources at least. They can be, but don't have to be the same sources you used in the report. But you should have at least 1 or 2 sources or more. And they, again, will be on a works cited page. Okay, or if you happen to do an APA, just make sure you did the whole thing correctly in APA. All right, your annotated bibliography is considered its own assignment and also must be in the portfolio, and it needs to have been revised and edited. So it should also have those highlights, or it doesn't really need the highlights and stuff, just because I'll be able to tell at a glance if you fixed it. So it just needs to have been revised and edited according to whatever feedback I gave you. And if you resubmitted it, of course, and got more feedback telling you that it was great, then you already know it's going to be a good grade. So that's why it's so important. If there's anything that you still have not resubmitted to me to get more feedback from, and that includes the report and the editorial the ABIB, any of those things, feel free to still do it. I mean, you basically have time all the way up till the end of the term to submit those kinds of things and get more feedback from me. All right, exercises must be typed with MLA formatting, and they need to be written according to the general exercise instructions, which means all the exercises should have an exercise number like this, and then a colon, and then your creative title, subtitle. So every exercise should say exercise number 1, exercise number 2, and then a colon up after that, and then the creative subtitle based on what you've written. Okay, so lastly here it says items 1 through 10 below should be all copied and pasted. So you'll copy and paste each one of these assignments, each one of these exercises and the memo and table of contents, all that stuff. You'll copy paste all that onto one long document and in this same order. So this is giving you the order to do them and everything. This will be your main or primary portfolio. So when I refer to the portfolio, I'm typically referring to all of it. But if you see comments about the portfolio and we're talking about the exercises or something like that, then I'm probably talking about the main portfolio. So don't let that get confused. It's easy to tell what I'm talking about when I talk to you about it for whatever reason. All right, so you have to start with a table of contents. So the very first page of the portfolio, and it doesn't matter if you've done this in MLA or APA, your papers, the portfolio will be just exactly like this. So you'll start with a table of contents. After the table of contents, you can find a template for table of contents, or in Word or online. You can Google a table of contents examples and find one. The basic table of contents should have the list of the different things that you've got in there. For example, the final memo, the exercise 1, exercise 2. Typically the way they're done is the list of the items are on the left margin, and then you'll have like a line across to connect to the right margin, and on the right margin there'll be just a page numbers. Okay, so that's how they're typically done, and that's what yours should look like basically. Okay, so final memo template on the next page that we're going to look at what's actually on page 3. But the template on the page 3 will show you what the memo should consist of and how it can look and everything. I've even created it in the form of a template so that you can actually use it as your template if you want to. All right, so that's going to be first thing I see after the table contents. Then you're going to have exercises in the order they were done, properly titled, and they should all look uniform. They should all look just alike as far as the formatting is concerned. You're going to have number 9 is you're going to be your best draft of your ABIB with with everything having been fixed and everything. Again, you don't necessarily have to have highlights or anything on it. It just has to be fixed. It has to have been revised and edited to get it just right. And then finally, you're going to have your 7 miscellaneous items or more. You can have more, but you can't have less than 7 miscellaneous items. And those should be basically with each one of them does not have to have a proper heading, like with your name, my name, and all that stuff. All you really have to have for each miscellaneous item, everything should start on its own new page. So your final memo should begin on page 1 or 2, depending on whether you page number your table of contents. If your final memo ends on page 3, then your first exercise should start on page 4, no matter how much of page 3 is left empty. Everything should start on its own page, and the miscellaneous items should be the same way. Each one be on its own page, start on its own page, new page, and it should have a title. It does not have to have all that other stuff like the heading and stuff. It just needs to have a title that says something like like miscellaneous item number 1, and then a description of what it is. That's all you need. Okay, for each one of the miscellaneous items. You got to have that little descriptor for what it is so that it's easy for me to tell what you actually did, right? Now, very important in bold here says these last 2 items, 11 and 12, must be submitted as separate Word documents, no PDFs now. Everything needs to be Word documents, and each document must have my comments on it. So, or not mine, I meant to change that. I forgot to delete that. Each document, you can ignore that part. The revisions and edits absolutely must be highlighted and annotated throughout the work so that I can see your revisions and edits. So you do not have to have my comments. You probably won't have my comments still on them, so you can ignore that. I forgot to delete that part. Anyway, the last two items are your research report itself, the total full thing, including the works cited pages. Again, highlighted and annotated, and that's going to be your best draft. Same for the editorial. Those two items will be just attached separately, but they'll all three be in the same assignment. You'll just attach three different things. Okay, and this is just a clarification that you'll have those three things attached in it. All right, now notice it says scroll down to the next page. This is where it shows you how to do the memo. And I'm going to go over a little bit of this because it's pretty self-explanatory. Delete this part in bold. Remember, you don't need stuff in bold usually. So delete this and just begin with Mr. Griever up here. But you want to have this information, so it should be done just like this. It should actually say to, from, date, subject, and then this information. And then it should say Mr. Griever because it's like a letter. It's like a memo, so it should have a citation, Mr. Griever, and then a colon, and then these items in this order. And you can bold these like as subheadings if you want to. You can have bold subheadings for even more delineated each part. But you should have all of these items should be single space. Notice how I'm showing you here. I'm actually showing you within this what it should look like. You do not want to actually keep these numbers. Like you don't delete those, but you can, and you don't need really to have even the word introduction, because it's always a given. The first paragraph, the first part is going to be the introduction. But you'll want to have a brief introduction. This does not have to be very long and involved. And then you'll have your body parts again. You could probably create a bold subheading that says discussion of goals, right? You could even break it down further to have each individual goal, all that stuff. So you can highlight and kind of work those any way you want. The main thing to remember is that everything is going to be single spaced with double spacing between parts. So notice how this is single space, and this would be single space too, if it's as long as it's part of this. So the introduction will be just a full paragraph, and then you'll have a single space, and then you'll start the body, and then you'll have a single space maybe and start the goal one, however you want to do it. But you should have all of this stuff should be single space with double spacing between your major parts. Okay, so that's all that you just read all this, make sure you understand it all, and that will be it for the guidelines. As always, let me know if you have questions or need help.